Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, welcome to Siempre Pa'lante. Pa'lante. Siempre Pa'lante.
Welcome, mi gente, to Siempre Pa'lante, Always Forward, a podcast that is culture-driven, focused on familia, overcoming adversity, and legacy. I'm your host, Gerardo Luis Alvarez. Gracias for listening. In this episode, you will hear about how music and art inspired our guest to follow her purpose, connecting the two. Salsa and Hip-Hop proved to be the catalyst for her art and murals throughout the community. The women in her familia planted the seeds of motivation, making her dreams become a reality. Abuelita's support gave our guest the fuel to become the artist she is today with the inspiring phrase, Arriba Los Corazones. Please welcome artist, muralist, DJ, and art designer, Miss Lushy. Miss Lushy, I want to thank you, first of all, for taking a ride on this Siempre Pa'lante, Always Forward journey. So let's get right to it. Who is Miss Lushy?
Miss Lushy. She was born and raised in Miami. My real name is Alexandra. I've been an artist for a very long time. I grew up loving art, so it was something that came very natural to me growing up. I've dedicated a lot of years to this, to my craft, and it's something that I really love. I've lived in Miami my whole life. I have two brothers. I'm the older sister, and my life has been dedicated to my art. That's my thing.
So let's take it back a little bit. Let's talk about the culture you growing up in your household and your family, right? Like those influences.
Yes, so I was born and raised in Miami. I'm not Cuban, but I definitely grew up with the Cuban culture around me. And I've embraced it as my own because a lot of my inspiration has come from that, whether it be the food, the music. My mom is from Nicaragua. My dad is from Chile. So there's a really random mix there. But I grew up in a household filled with music. Music was something that was always in my life. I thank my grandmother for that because she was one of the biggest influences in my life regarding anything artistic. It was her who encouraged it, who pushed it. I grew up doing shows in the living room, like dancing around and playing merengue, salsa, and all of that. And then as I got older, I discovered hip hop. So that's where the journey began. I mean, I kind of always grew up listening to music, but it wasn't until I was like 15 that I really fell in love with the hip hop culture. One of my friends that made a mix CD and it had a bunch of different hip hop artists and I fell in love. Notorious B.I.G. I fell in love with Mobb Deep. I love Gangstar. All these different artists really impacted me growing up. The Fugees, Lauren. I think I've played the Miss Education album a million times. My room was filled with CDs everywhere. I had a gigantic stereo. Then I got my turntables at 16 and I just became obsessed. I was like, oh my God, I want to do all the elements of hip hop. Like I want to be a beat girl. I want to be a graph artist, a DJ. I was very intrigued by the culture. I had a lot of friends that were break dancers growing up also. So I grew up watching hip hop jams and watching b-boys and being in the environment and seeing everyone just enjoying the music. That's kind of where I decided to pick up a spray can. I had a lot of friends that were graffiti artists as well. I did my sketches and that's where the name Lushy came. That was the name that I chose for myself as my tag. And it's funny because originally the name was Luscious. I don't know, I guess at 16, I figured that was like a perfect feminine name for myself. But Luscious is too long and it sounded too much like a stripper's name. So I was like, that doesn't really go with me. And then it just became a nickname. A lot of my friends just called me Lushy, and Lushy stuck. So Lushy for Luscious, but that's where the name came from.
I like that. And you made that transition from salsa to hip hop. What was that first song that it just clicked?
Yes, it was Dead Wrong, Biggie and Eminem. And Once I heard the beginning of that beat, the way it started, I was intrigued and I blasted the music and just everything that he's saying. One of the things that I love about Biggie, because I'm a huge Biggie fan, is just his storytelling, how he says things, very creative in the way he rhymes. That was something that I loved. And it was one of the songs that I memorized just because it was so catchy to me. And Give Me the Loot was another one. Give Me the Loot blew my mind. It was that. And there was also Bone Thugs in there that I loved. Thuggish Ruggish Bone. That was one of my top favorites. I think there was a little bit of Nas also in there. It was a mixture of different artists, but I remember Dead Wrong was one of the ones that I was like, what is this?
Nice. Big shout to Biggie. Big shout to M. Legends. You talked about your origin from Luscious to Lushy. Why did it stick to you?
You know, when I was younger, I knew that it was important for me to represent the female aspect of the culture. And so I wanted a name that was feminine. I don't think a guy would write Lushy, or actually there is. But I don't know, it just fit with me and I felt like it was feminine and that's what I wanted. And then it really just stuck. Like I introduced myself as Lushy, or like my artist name was Lushy this. And it also turned into this alter ego for myself when it's like, I'm going to go paint. Okay, it's Lushy. Lushy's going to go do her thing. Lushy's the brave side of me, the one that sneaks into places that I'm not supposed to be in to go paint, the one that crawls under things and goes in art adventures. So that's that part of me. But yeah, it stuck and I love it. Some people call me Alex, but it's mainly Lushy. It just kind of stuck.
I feel Abuelita contributed to this alter ego immensely. What can you share about that?
So my grandmother was a single mother. She moved to the States from Chile by herself with her two kids, my dad and my aunt. She was a very, very strong, independent woman. She didn't let anything stop her. If she had obstacles, which she had a million obstacles, all her stories were crazy. She kept going. Actually, your logo siempre pa'lante, that lady never stopped. She raised me. She was always in my life. And she always pushed me to believe in myself, to believe in the things that I want to do. Even if it gets hard, even if there's challenges, to continue to get better, to not let it go, to not give up. That's the only way to get better, is to just keep going. And she instilled that in me. And the art life hasn't been the easiest. She would definitely be someone that would always encourage me. You know, there was times where I wanted to quit. I grew up doing this because it came natural to me. I was always filled with coloring books in my home and coloring and drawing. And it wasn't something that I was like, oh, I'm going to make money off of this, until later on. When I graduated high school is when I really decided, you know what, I'm going to do something in art. I'm going to pick a career that has to do with art because this is what I obsess over. I went to school. I got my bachelor's in graphic design. So I did that for a bit, but I really wasn't in love with graphic design. It was painting that I really wanted to do. And I never really took a painting class. I took maybe like a basic painting class in art school, but it wasn't something that I focused on. It wasn't until after I graduated college that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to try and do this and see what happens. And funny enough, I made a Biggie painting because I wanted a Biggie painting for my room. And that was the first time that I realized that I can paint portraits, that there's something in me that I can do this. And I ran with it. And my grandma definitely always supported me. And she was someone that I would reach out to whenever I felt down, or it's like if I didn't get an opportunity or I missed out on something, you know, she'd be like, it's okay. You just keep on. You'll have your moment. You'll have your time. Just focus on you and keep going. So I always remember her in that way. My first tattoo is something that she used to always tell me, and it's something that has stuck with me forever. She would tell me, Arriba Los Corazones. And anytime that I'm feeling down or I'm like, oh, God, this is like difficult, Arriba Los Corazones, Arriba Los Corazones. So I have that on my forearm and I look at it whenever I'm stressing out and stuff. But she was definitely a big role in my life. When she passed away 3 years ago, I fell into a really bad depression. I didn't want to paint. I stopped painting. I stopped creating. At some point, when I hit my lowest point, I've remembered that I know she wouldn't want me to stop. She wouldn't want me to stop painting. So I picked up my brush again and I started painting again. I'm like, you know what? From now on, even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to do it for her. And that's what gave me the strength to do everything that I've done since she passed away. I think of her whenever I'm like low on energy or I'm like, I don't know. I think of Abuelita and it's like, what would Abuelita want you to do? Pick up your brush, pick up your candy, go paint. Even if you don't want to, go do it for her. So that's been my biggest inspiration throughout my life.
Arriba Los Corazones.
Arriba Los Corazones.
What are some other cool things from growing up, your cultural traditions and your family that you still continue to this day?
Well, music continues to be a huge aspect in my life. I have a lot of awesome memories of family parties. My family parties are a lot of fun. And I ended up being the DJ now for the family parties. So I'm someone that loves to like get everyone dancing and enjoying themselves. So that's something that still to this day, we do all of that.
So you're a DJ too?
I do have my little vinyl collection. It's been a while, so sometimes I don't like to use the title DJ because it's been a while. I did used to DJ at a poetry spot years ago. Every Friday, that was me. I would play the background music and set the vibe and the tone. And honestly, I've been dying to get back into it. I've been saving up money to get my new turntables and my new equipment. It is an expensive hobby, but I want to stick to the tradition and stick to actual turntablism. I used to have the CDJs and stuff, but what I loved from all of that was the scratching aspect, the mixing, matching the beats and all of that. Like that's something that I was intrigued by. And so it's something that I definitely want to get back into. I love it. I love music. I can't paint without music. I have to have headphones. Like usually if I'm painting, you'll see me with like gigantic headphones. I have to just connect. It goes hand in hand, my art with my music.
You pretty much do the 5 elements.
I haven't done emceeing, definitely not an MC. I write. I've done poetry, yes.
That's emceeing, because emceeing is poetry. So come on, you got to give yourself credit for that.
Yeah, I do. The dancing aspect of it. I mean, I definitely tried to learn a little bit of breaking, but it didn't work out for me.
What other things, traditional things that, let's start with food. Like you smell something and it triggers a family memory. Please share.
For me, I think, it's a combination because luckily I was blessed to have the Nicaraguan culture and the Chilean culture, and then living in Miami, the Cuban culture. So I have plenty of options. But for me, I think growing up, one of the most amazing memories I have of my grandmother from my mom's side, from Nicaragua, that lady was always cooking. Like she had always different pots on the stove, making soup. I love soup. I'm like a huge soup person, thanks to my grandma. She always had like a soup of the day, but it was the gallo pinto, the queso frito, the carne asada. Oh my God, all of that with the cafecito and the tortillas. And then from my Chilean side, the empanadas. That's like one of my favorite things. I mean, we all have our different types of empanadas, but the Chilean ones are definitely really good too. The different sodas from over there. I think there's one that I love called Dulce Pop. It's kind of like a red soda. It's really good. Same thing with Nicaragua. Milka is an awesome soda. And then, of course, the tostadas from the places here in Miami, croquetas, all of that. The pastelitos, the colada. I love coladas. I actually have to cut down on my coffee intake, but I love coffee. So when I painted the Celia Cruz mural, I was in Calle Ocho. And constantly, like, I would be going to drink my little colada to be working on the mural. I would go and get my empanadas. Everything feels like home. It brings everyone together. Like, I've had people that would come like, oh, do you want some croquetas? They would bring me pastelitos and stuff when I was working. My aunt would come by and bring me food. So it's cozy.
Is there something else that's really stayed with you from your culture and from your family?
I would say the women in my family have impacted me the most because they've been very strong. They've been the rock of the family. So for me, it's important as a woman to be that as well now. Not to say that the men didn't matter, which they did, but the women were the ones that really, really influenced me throughout my life. It was my tia, my mom, my grandmothers. They really, really did their best to raise the family well, to provide for the family as well. And that has stayed with me. Like, it's important for me as a woman to continue that. I'm very, very independent, I guess. And I grew up seeing my grandmother be like that. Always like working, hustling, like doing your thing, you know, always like keeping busy. And I get that from her. A lot of my inspiration too, or what I've used my art for growing up, was to also survive the family dysfunctions growing up. I think everyone has their dysfunctions at home. There's family problems and stuff. And growing up, there was difficulties that really impacted me too. And my art was the one thing that helped me through all of that. So that's something that definitely has been a big part of my art journey, is using it as an outlet. And it's something that when I have worked with kids in the past, I've realized that I became that person that I wish I had growing up in that sense. All the good times and the bad times have been a huge part of my creative journey.
What you just said is beautiful. Families are not perfect. What makes it the perfect imperfection is how we embrace those things, but learn to get through them together and find these outlets, because you need an outlet. And art proved to be this outlet for you, because the pieces you make, there's a connection. And I'm sure every time you sketched, every time you painted, every time you were playing music, all these things, you were channeling whatever happened and bringing that positive out of it.
That's exactly it. Sometimes our best art comes from pain, comes from hardship. And I don't think I've ever been as open to talk about it, but I think now I've reached a point in my life where I'm like, I want to share that part of me, because it is why I make art and why it's helped me. But a lot of my pieces come from me being in a lot of pain. I morph my pain into something beautiful. That's how I get through it. There's times where I'm painting and I'm crying. When I painted my last mural, I had moments where I'm up there painting and I'm crying. People don't see that, but it's there. So then when I'm done with the whole thing, the emotions that I go through when I'm creating something, it's very intense. But when it's done, it's like, wow, I've released all of it and I made this. This is the outcome of everything that I had inside of me. And I think that's what makes it more special. I feel like no matter how much you try and sell a painting, it'll never be enough, because you're literally selling a piece of your soul that you just left on a canvas. There is no price for that. I paint from a place like that. If I don't feel good, it's hard for me to sometimes get in the flow. When I do, it helps me. And it's nice for me too to see what I turn my pain into. Yeah, it's definitely a really positive outlet. And it's something that I encourage to a lot of youth that I've surrounded myself with.
We want you to keep going, because there's young little girls that are going to become women one day, and they need more role models like you. They need people that can defy the odds. Our stories need to be told, because there's someone out there that will get inspired by hearing that and push forward.
If they can take anything from what I do, it would be to inspire them to do the same with themselves, whether it be art or whatever it is that they're interested in, to not give up on the one thing that makes you the happiest. Do that, immerse in it, and not give up. Even if people tell you you can't do it or you're not going to make anything out of it, it doesn't matter. It's your path, and to stick to what resonates with your soul. That's the most important thing.
And now, a word from our host, Giraldo Luis. Did you know, sabías que? Hope Murals is a nonprofit based in Miami, Florida. Led by Executive Director and Founder Germán Dubois III, their vision stated by Germán is Art Therapy Heals. Hope Murals uses the arts to establish a motivational foundation that serves the most at-risk and underserved youth who are incarcerated within the juvenile justice system, and facilitates therapeutic art services, mentoring, and life skills development so each child is ready to make a positive impact in their community upon their release. Hope Murals programming consists of art for adolescent youth at the Miami-Dade County Juvenile Detention Center, outreach introducing contemporary street art to the community, and Hope Murals Academy that is an art-based youth development school-based model. For more information on Hope Murals and how you can get involved, go to hopemurals.org. Ya tu sabe, now back to the show. You mentioned about this mural with Celia. Is there a way that's going to become a print?
Oh, you know what? I am so glad that you mentioned that because yes, I am working on that actually. I'm working on making that a print. And also I have thought of t-shirts. So yes, as soon as I get that going, I will let you know. I'll be putting it on my site, which is misslushyart.com. I'll hopefully get that done very soon because I want to rock a Celia shirt too.
So I want to know the connection, the inspiration. I'm all ears right now.
Yeah, so I was painting at my friend's studio for a little bit when I moved back to Miami. So I was living in Fort Lauderdale for 2 years and I moved back home. I didn't really have a place to do my artwork. And one of my friends has had her studio in Calle Ocho. So, she let me paint there for almost a year. Like I would go when I could paint and she kind of opened her doors to me, which I'm really grateful. She's an amazing artist too. So I was going to Calle Ocho constantly for a year. And every drive to the studio, I noticed that there wasn't any mural of Celia on Calle Ocho. I mean, there was like paintings, random things of Celia in different stores and stuff. I'm like, how is there no mural of Celia Cruz here? And then it just dawned on me. I'm like, you know what? Maybe it's not there because I'm supposed to do it. Maybe I'm the one that's going to do it. So for a year, and this is the power of manifestation, I was like, you know what? I'm going to paint Celia. I want to paint Celia in Calle Ocho. And it happened. Everything just kind of started falling into place. And I collaborated with one of the store owners that has a shop on that same street. It's on Calle Ocho and 13th Court. He has a nonprofit organization where he wants to beautify the neighborhoods, especially in Little Havana. You know what? I would love to participate and do murals in the area, and I would love to paint Celia. And he was really happy with the idea. Things just started falling into place. I made a mock-up. We sent it out to the city also to get the city to approve the project. They backed us up also, and they funded part of the project. With the whole pandemic, obviously things kind of stopped. We had been planning it for almost a year, but it didn't happen until March of this year, 2021, which was very exciting. Once I got the green light, I was very, very happy. I started painting Celia, and the whole experience was so magical, so magical. It just so happened that that same week was my grandmother's birthday, March 31st. It was day 3 of the mural. And the whole connection with my grandmother and me is that I have beautiful memories of my granny and I listening to Celia. Like I know her music because of my grandmother. So childhood memories of me doing those like family shows in the living room, dancing and yelling azúcar and all of that. So it was very special to be painting Celia during my Abuelita's birthday. I dedicated that mural to my grandmother. I know that she would have been super happy and very proud. It was really, really special to be able to do that on my grandmother's birthday. It just was beautiful. And then just the amount of love that I received being there from people in the neighborhood, old, young, like all different generations coming together for the sake of art and music and Celia. And my duty there was to bring Celia to life so that she can be there in the neighborhood so people can remember her legacy. The Hispanic community in general, we all embrace her. It was important for me to pay her homage. And I hope that I did her justice because I was also very intimidated because she was an amazing, powerful woman. So I was up there, I'm like, I hope I get your face right, please. But it was good. It was very magical. I played music out there. We had a little block party. Some of my friends that are break dancers, they came and we threw a little like jam for people and really grassroots. And I was like, you know what? I know that our community has been very down with the whole pandemic. Things aren't as normal yet, but I wanted to bring some happiness to the neighborhood, to the block. And that was my vision, to create a vibe while I was still finishing up the mural. So the last final weekend of the mural, we had music out there. I had one of my friends who's a percussionist and he had the drums out there. And then people started coming and dancing, and it was beautiful. It was a really, really great experience. I was able to actually meet her manager. He came by and looked at the mural. He was really excited. And then they wanted to support the project. So I was able to put their logo, the Celia Cruz Legacy Project, on the mural. So I was super happy. I got to meet one of her relatives that was actually visiting, which was really awesome. So the whole experience was something that I will never, ever forget. And I'll cherish it forever. It was an awesome, awesome project to be a part of. I only had a week to do it. I had requested time off from my full-time job. There was maybe 2 days out of the week that I didn't really get to do much because I was also sharing the scissor lift with the other artist. And then one of the days it started raining on me at night, so I couldn't really do much. But the days that I was out there, 12 to 14 hour days, like I would be out there still like 12 at night, 1 in the morning out there painting. The biggest challenge I had with that particular mural was the pain that I was feeling in my hands, because prior to the mural, I was in a lot of pain. They're getting a little better now, but I'm still in the process of finding out what I have going on. But my fingers would wake up swollen every morning. So every morning before going to paint the mural, I would have to dip my hands in Epsom salt and like get ready because I wake up with stiff fingers. Holding a coffee mug was hurting in the morning, and I'd be spray painting. So the whole time I'm there adding pressure. The whole mural was spray paint. There was moments where I'd be painting and my whole hand would cramp up and I couldn't keep going. And, out of the frustration of wanting to complete it, feeling the pressure, people watching, because I'm painting there, so there's tourists that are constantly like taking pictures and watching the whole process. But I felt bad in certain days because I couldn't do it. I couldn't finish, or I would just kind of pace myself, take breaks in between, talk to people, which helped me. And people were very kind and supportive. Friends too, they knew what I was going through. So I had a lot of support during that whole process because they knew that I was in pain, painting most of that mural. But the excitement of the project, the joy of being able to paint Celia, such a beautiful person, how like she impacted me growing up, all of that combined gave me the strength to keep going. I had my speaker out on my lift and blasting Celia. So anytime I was feeling a little discomfort, I'd play her music. I'm like, all right, let's just keep going. La vida es un carnaval.
What are some of the things that in the community you're doing now to pay it forward?
Well, currently I've kind of paused a little bit to rest. So I don't have anything that I'm doing at the moment right now. But I do have to get back to finishing a mural that I started at the Juvenile Detention Center here in Miami. And it was with a program that I collaborated with. They're a nonprofit organization called Hope Murals, which really awesome people. What they do is they collaborate with different artists from the community, local artists, and we go into the detention center and we work with the kids. We have both female and male artists. And so the male artists work with the male teenagers and we work with the girls. The whole idea is to share with them this outlet to paint, to express yourself in a positive way. So I started a mural there, collaborating with another artist, and we had a discussion with the girls. We met with them. We talked about what hope means to them. And as we do our brainstorming session with the girls, we kind of collaborate and come up with a concept. And then we collaborate with the girls and they help us paint the mural. So one thing that we started, and this was like 2 years ago already, because 2020 stopped a bunch of things for everybody. So this is something that I'm looking forward to getting back into. We basically worked with the girls and our concept was, we were really inspired by Tupac, Keep Your Head Up, the whole song. And we talked about that with the girls and we talked to them about his book, The Rose That Grew from Concrete. And we used that whole concept with them. And one of my friends who I collaborated with, she did all the letters and we wrote Keep Your Head Up, and I painted all the roses and the girls painted all the petals. So it was a very interactive mural with the girls in the detention center, and I started a Tupac portrait to go along with it. So that's something that I will be going back to do. Hopefully next month I'll be back there and finish completing the mural, and hopefully I can do another mural with the girls there at the detention center.
How do you feel after you're done?
Well, one, I'm very emotional. So there's a lot of emotions that I feel when I'm there interacting with these girls. A lot of them have gone through very difficult things. There's stories too that remind me of my childhood or my troubles when I was 14 years old. It takes me back to those moments in my life where I felt like I had no solution or support. But to think that I could be someone that can show them something positive means the world to me, because I wish I had that. I wish I knew a female artist growing up where she can show me things, but I didn't have that. You know, I had my art teacher from school, but somebody that is out in the street painting and doing murals in neighborhoods, like I wish I would have met someone like that growing up. But it's special to me to share that now with other girls and hope that they can feel like they can do something themselves in their future. So it definitely is a good feeling, hoping that at least I plant a little seed that may make a difference in their life.
What does legacy mean to you?
I mean, I've actually been thinking about that more often. What do I want to leave behind? What does Lushy want to leave behind? And there's moments in my life that I wanted to give up on myself. There's a lot of moments in my life where I struggled with depression. I still do to this day, and it's something that it's very difficult to go through. For me, one thing is to remind people to believe in themselves, to really, really believe in yourself, and to show that love and support to who you are. If I can do that through my art, just to remind people, don't give up on the things you love, because if it wasn't for my art, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I never gave up on it. Even in the moments where I felt stuck, and I still have moments where I am my worst critic. Like I am very, very picky and hard on myself, but really to just enjoy what you do and believe in what you do, because no one's going to do it for you. You have to do it for yourself. If that could be something I can leave to everybody, then it would be that. And to share what you love. It doesn't make sense to do something and not share it with others.
Gracias, Miss Lushy, for being on the show and sharing your story. You're an inspiration to all women and artists around the world. For all my listeners, kindly rate and review the show. 5 stars and a little love go a long way. Check the show description for more info on where you can find Miss Lushy via social media. Next week's guest will be artist, muralist, and visionary Suleiman Onque. Tune in and tell a friend. Hasta la próxima. Pa'lante.